Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good.
Hello everyone, my name is Dalton Trainer with Cartoons Incorporated of Greenville, Mississippi. And before we get into my top 12 video, I want to send a huge thank you out to the MEA, Mr. Chris Cook and Richard Bassler. Without you guys, we wouldn't have these amazing awards to compete in. Thank y'all so much from the bottom of my heart. Let's get into this video.
How I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good.
Hello everyone, my name is Dalton Trainer with Cartoons Incorporated of Greenville, Mississippi. And this is my top 12 feature build vehicle. It's a 2018 Ram 1500 that also doubles as our shop demo vehicle. So this vehicle is a perfect selling tool for lighting, custom fabrication, and high-end audio equipment. Let's get into it.
That's what I mean. And this whole world is
System design, by far the most important aspect of any large build that you do. With system design, I always start with the 3 key points of my personal philosophy, which are what are the client's requests and wants, what kind of vehicle it is, and what factory audio systems it is equipped with, and finally, how are we going to make all this equipment serviceable that we install into the vehicle. So this vehicle being a shop demo vehicle, some of the requests were from clients that came through. We originally had dash pods that were made here, so we didn't do a full-on custom A-pillar. Some of the clients felt like they were a little intrusive to the dash window screen, so it made it kind of hard to see out of the vehicle. Personally, being a taller guy, it didn't affect me as much, but our shorter clientele did mention that. So we knew we wanted to build full-on A-pillars this year in it that were very sleek and as the least amount intrusive as possible. So we did that, full-on custom A-pillars. As far as radio, we did do an upgrade on this one to the new Linkswell 15.6-inch screen, which has optical output and RCA 4-volt preamp on it. Solid unit. Other than that, we knew this needed to be a sound quality build to show our clients what SQ really sounds like. And we have some clients that believe that SQ means that they don't have volume, so we wanted to build an SQ vehicle that images very well but also has some some volume behind it too, for those that think SQ can't be a loud vehicle. So we have some really big power in here as far as request goes. Next, what kind of vehicle is it? This is a 2018 Ram 1500 with the factory Alpine audio system. Like mentioned before, we changed the radio in it, so integration really wasn't that hard for us. But if you were to keep the original radio, you would use a preamp device, kind of like the Pack Amp Pro, and then run your signal directly into your DSP. Next, how are we going to make it serviceable? So custom A-pillars are one of those things that some people think you can't remove or would be hard to remove. In this vehicle, it's as simple as popping one key little insert out. So at the top of it, what we did is I made a insert that says SRS airbag. It's held in magnetically. You pop that out. The original bolt that bolts the original pillars in is right there, and you pull those 2 bolts out. The pillars will slide forwards, and then they have a cleat at the bottom, pops right out. You can put the original pillar right back in, put the 2 bolts back in them, and be done with the job in 5 minutes, maybe less than that. I mean, me personally, I've taken these in and out 100 times, probably 3 minutes for me. But as far as serviceability, at the bottom of the pillars, we have a 4-pin Deutsch connector, which covers the mid and tweet. So you unpop that, and everything comes right out. Serviceability as far as in the back, the amp rack's all bolted in with threaded inserts and hardware. We have a bunch of 12-pin Deutsch connectors that allow us to unconnect all of the inputs and outputs of the amplifier, and then on the far side there's a fuse distribution panel. You undo your power right there, and then the entire amp rack slides right out. So it makes it very easy to service, especially since we have such a large amount of equipment in here. Instead of having to fight crawling behind the seat, you can just unbolt it, slide it right out. That's pretty much it for this right here, so let's get into the build and check it out. Since I decided to go with the Linkswell aftermarket touchscreen, there was very little integration that we had to do in this vehicle to the factory system other than some of the wiring. So as you can see, it's got the aftermarket radio, but the factory Alpine amplifier is actually located right here under the dash, and this is where we made some of the connections into the main vehicle side harness. That way we could integrate into the factory wiring that goes into the door boots and use that, and then make it as serviceable as possible where we can put it back to original if needed.
Under the dash, the factory Alpine amp is actually located right here, and PAC does make a harness to use the outputs, the speaker outputs right here that clicks on, but I didn't need the power or any of the center channel or rear speakers or anything like that. I just needed the front doors and the rear doors. And the problem is you see here it's 16 gauge wire coming from the amplifier. Their harness only uses like 22 gauge, so I figured let's use some Deutsch connectors. So we have these where I can plug them back together right here as OEM, and then my harnesses that go from the rear, I have my front doors and my rear doors here, and then all my other connections are made and soldered and wrapped up right here.
Troubleshooting. With this vehicle, I had very little troubleshooting to do, but one of the troubleshooting issues I had was a CAN bus issue in this vehicle. So you see we have the big tablet style screen. Originally when I first put it in, it would not turn on when you would turn the ignition on. So I went to checking things and finally figured out that I didn't have any accessory input to the radio. The accessory input on this radio is actually controlled by a computer module that reads the CAN bus data off of the vehicle. So after further in-depth research on it, I started testing, and the CAN lines that come out of the factory connector into this main brain box with this one, the CAN lines were actually flipped. So the CAN high and low were in both the wrong positions. So it wasn't reading CAN bus on the factory system, which was causing it not to turn on. So I depinned those 2 pins and flipped them into the correct position, and boom, the radio comes on. Everything is functioning with the vehicle. The gauges pop up on it, all the vehicle interfacing showing like if doors are open or tires are low, all displays through the radio now that it's functioning on the CAN bus network. Fabrication, one of my favorite parts of doing the build. This is what makes everything look like it belongs. So as you can see, the factory color scheme on the door are the wood grain, the silver trim, and then the tan and brown vinyl. So with my sub enclosure, I did the exact same thing, the tan and brown vinyl, so it matches really well. Fabricating the amp racks, clean wiring is one of the things I love doing, but the fabrication of the amp racks, I feel like that just takes it to the next level. In the front, fabricating the custom A-pillars was another big task that I really enjoyed doing. These things are absolutely beautiful. But little things just like making the SRS airbag insert to hide the bolt that bolts this in, just that really goes along with the OEM aesthetic, because originally the panels have an SRS logo on them because there are airbags behind these. So I feel like that makes it have a real nice finish. The brown vinyl to match the dash and doors, and then the pressed grille, I used the gloss black trim to make it fit in with key things like we have the black on the air vents and certain other parts of the dash. I feel like it just flows really nice. And then another custom thing was the brushed aluminum vinyl that I added here. This just really made it blend in and look like it belonged in the truck. And then our DSP controller over here. Nice laser cut acrylic trim. I did that and put that Ram logo in there just to make it look like it was something that, you know, possibly could be factory there. Let's take a look at some of the build log photos. We're at the halfway point. So this is what the brushed aluminum looks like versus what it did before. We can get this side knocked out real quick, but I think it's looking awesome. Look at that texture. Today's project from CNC Laser, I cut out templates, built me a what's called a press box right here. That's a square box, but I cut this piece out on the laser. I've got a negative here and a positive here that goes on the top. And what you do is you put a piece of metal mesh like this in there that's flat. It goes in, take it, put it on that press, presses it, and what it does, it makes this piece that's pressed out with the positive and negative. So you see what I'm saying? It goes here, then you pull it out, and then you'll have your panel that goes over the top like this. And you see how it has, it's kind of crooked on there, but see how it has your dimension, your layers. So sneak peek, base plate, press grill, and then that's all the layers. These are just test ports though. It'll get transferred to acrylic. Here I'm showing the multi-layered grills that I designed for the A-pillars. Layer 1 is the base plate layer that holds the magnets. In the center there's a pressed mesh grill, and the third layer is the outer trim that sandwiches the grill between layer 1 and 2. Both baffles and grills are completed and are ready to be molded into the A-pillars. Started the process of cutting the A-pillars and mounting the baffles in using hot staples. Pillars are mounted in. I've got a bolt that goes right here, right into the main pillar bolting section. And what I designed was this cool little insert
to cover that bolt. It's got a magnet on the back, just like the grills for the speakers, but it'll just go right here, press fit in, and the magnet grabbed it. So very OEM looking. So let me show you how the insert went in magnetically. This is our custom grill, so it's black acrylic to match. It's a pressed aluminum mesh, painted black. The backside has your magnets recessed in it. And then, the install is just this simple. Pops right in.
As far as my inspiration and influence for this build, I would have to say inspiration-wise, Mr. Dan June from Memphis Cardio inspired me as far as the equipment that went into this build. He's been our rep for several years now, more than several years, as long as I can remember he's been our rep. But Dan, he's an extremely knowledgeable guy. I remember years and years ago when I first got my oscilloscope, he was the first person to teach me how to do gain overlap correctly. And from then on, every time he comes to bring new product or do a meeting with our shop, he always has some kind of technical advice that he can give. And he's just an amazing guy, somebody that really deserves more praise than he gets. But as far as the equipment, he influenced me to go with the Memphis Audio equipment, one, because that's the brand that he reps, but another reason I chose to go with it is their DSP software that they have. He actually had his hand in the design of it. So who better to use a DSP from than somebody who's had your back, as long as you can remember. So we did the full 6.5 build in here. He was the inspiration behind that. His vehicle was another inspiring factor as well. He has some of the 6.5 components in his, and I was absolutely blown away by the performance of the speakers. As far as materials used in this one, in the dash and in the rear where the custom panels were made, I tried to go with light materials like the brown leather for the pillar pods, the brown and tan combo, and the leather that's on the sub enclosure, the brown carpet that makes it match the forward liner. And then as far as the dash, wrapping the dash in the brushed aluminum to give it more of that OEM aesthetic. Those were some of the things I did as far as materials wise goes. Even as far as going on the dash to, like a technique I used on the dash pillars to make them blend as perfect as possible. I actually got a vinyl leather dye that you apply to the material, and that makes it match 100% perfect in there, because I'm sure you've noticed in certain vehicles they have their own little hues. In the Rams, the brown vinyl leather that's in there is almost has like a reddish hue to it. So the vinyl dye that I got for them, when applied, it brings out that hue and makes them an absolute 100% perfect match. As far as issues that occurred in this build, there was very few, just being honest. I mean, when you build a vehicle from the ground up, a lot of times there's not many issues as long as somebody hasn't been in it before. The only issue I had was with the new Linkswell radio that I put in, and it was a very small CAN bus issue, just probably something that happened at the factory, to be 100% honest. But when I first installed it, the radio wasn't cutting on, so immediately I pulled it out and started checking connection on the back and realized that there wasn't an accessory turn-on wire to it, which the accessory in this in the system behind the radio is generated by a CAN bus communication box that reads the CAN bus off the factory network. And going further into depth, checking the CAN lines on it, we had CAN high and CAN low power, but looking at it, the CAN bus high and low wires were actually flipped in the plug that connects into the factory harness. So it was as simple as depinning and flipping those two wires, and then as soon as I plugged it up, everything fired right back up. So very few issues were were to be overcome with this. And as far as the system, me personally, I'm absolutely blown away with this. The system that was in here before, this one totally trumps the output of it. And I tell you who has my back, that's actually demoed this vehicle, is Mr. Dan June himself, one of the reps from Memphis Car Audio. And I'll have a short testimonial that he'll give to you right after, telling you what his thought on the sound system was.
I'm Dan June, Warranty and Tech Support Manager for Memphis Audio. Wanted to take a quick minute just to talk about Installer of the Year, what it means to me, and why I feel Dalton Trainer should get that title. To me, an Installer of the Year is more than just a great fabricator. It's an installer that can do anything that walks into the shop, whether it be audio, security, remote start, lighting, ATV and marine accessories, or even dealing with the occasional customer in the showroom. It's also someone that is continuously pushing themselves and their peers to improve their skill sets. When I met Dalton, it was April of 2012. Believe it or not, he was actually still in high school at that time, working part-time after school at Cartoons. Even then, I was extremely impressed with his eagerness to learn and always wanting to know more. Over the years, I've really watched Dalton continuously push himself, whether it's in his installations, his interaction with customers, or even helping others in the industry with trainings that he's been doing at Knowledge Fest. Recently, I had opportunity to spend a day with Dalton doing a in-vehicle DSP training. It was a treat for me because Dalton is so willing and eager to do the hands-on part of it. He wasn't sitting back waiting for me to show him what to do. He wanted to do it. He wanted to be the one doing it, me guiding him. So for me, that's a real treat. That and getting to see the attention to detail and how well laid out his installs are truly made tuning a very complicated 10-channel system that was fully active a breeze because of how well he had everything planned out. Of course, when the training was done and the vehicle was completely tuned, it sounded awesome. So much so that, like any really great sounding system, you forget that you're critically listening to it. We sat there for hours just listening to music we were familiar with and really stopped thinking, are we looking for this or that? It just truly sounded that great. In closing, I really like to see Dalton get this award. I think it would truly be a great achievement for all the hard work he has done and everything he has pushed for the last 10 plus years.
Part 2 of this video is going to encompass on my installation expertise. Some examples of those are going to show system design, clean wiring, integration, troubleshooting, and fabrication. System design. This is where every build starts, from start, conception to finished product, what we deliver to the client. These are going to be kind of my ways of doing it. The vehicle that I'm going to show is actually a boat that I just did a complete wiring system on, and audio, lighting, the whole works for a client of mine. But typically what I always do is I'll make a rough sketch of the vehicle that I have, and then I'll take a list of things that the client wants. So normally I put client needs or request right here. So on this one it says he wanted navigation lights for the front and rear, front outboard LED spotlights, so like a spotlight facing out towards the front, flush mount LEDs on the sides of the gunnel towards the front, rear mounted transom LED lights, a battery that's mounted on the passenger side rear of the floor, because he was going to have a fuel cell built in the front of the boat, so he wanted to keep the boat balanced. He also wanted me to run the gas and electrical lines from the motor through the transom like in a rubber grommet rather than just over the top how they were originally. Also an audio system that isn't intrusive to the open floor plan of this boat, and he wanted to have Bluetooth. And then finally an interior lighting solution to light the inside at night. I suggested a few add-ons. I said as far as the audio system, we can definitely do that. I would suggest doing an 8-inch and a 6-inch in the front. What this does is allows like a staggered look, and it makes it easier to get under the front of the boat into the cubby hole that's going to be there, and that's actually where the fuel cell is going to be mounted, so it'll make the mounting easier up there. I also said, as far as doing a Bluetooth like controller, I recommended the Rockford PMX 2 because it has a full display where you can see the audio that's going on. Like, so if you're on a Bluetooth source, weather band, XM, whatever you want to be on, it shows you on a display and has a rotary knob, so it's a little easier control than like some of those switch mounted ones. I also added another upgrade to it as far as amplifiers. Instead of just doing a single amplifier that would run both speakers, we did 2 4-channel amplifiers, bridged one to get more output out of the 8-inch mids. That way it'll be louder than the engine that's on the back of it. And then the other 4-channel runs the 2 6.5s, and then I ran an additional cable to the front of the boat. So after the fuel cell is built, we can build a custom sub enclosure in the front to mount up there so you can have a little base as well. As far as interior, I recommended the Racesport Lighting RSU underbody kit. It's actually a kit that's designed to go underneath cars, but it also is very versatile in a boat application because it has a aluminum channel that can easily be mounted in the boat and cut to fit. I really like them because they're extremely durable, and every boat I've ever done with them, I've had, you know, the best results out of it. As far as batteries, he wanted to do a single battery on the passenger side to help with weight. But I did mention to him, hey, you know, a single battery is, you know, only 40 to 50 pounds. So to offset his body weight, a double battery system would actually offset it better to make the boat float a little more evenly. And doing an auxiliary battery, we could run all the lighting and audio system off of the auxiliary battery, and then the number 1 battery could be just for engine function only. That way, if he is out on the lake and playing his music and runs the battery dead, he always has the secondary starting battery that's only dedicated to the engine. By doing this, we needed to add an automatic isolator as well, rather than like one of those twist switch ones. So that was another, you know, add-on in there. And then as far as like all the switching that's going to control everything in the boat, I recommend to him we put it on the driver's side gonal real close to him so it's easily accessible. As far as the next step, I always rough sketch a vehicle, and then I'll mark and draw little spots roughly where things are going to go. This, a lot of times, it, you know, can change. It's definitely a rough sketch, but it gives the client insight on kind of what's going to go down with their vehicle. So on the front of this boat, I told them we're going to do, you know, a light housing that's on the front with his spotlights and his nav lights all together. We have the spots that the speakers are going to go. So we got 8-inch and 6-inch. The lines right here show the lighting that we're going to do on all 4 corners of it, where his switch panel is going to be, his flush mount lights left and right and on the rear, the bilge pump that we're going to install for him, his main amplifier wiring rack that has all the boat wiring and accessories all dedicated here, your nav light pole on the rear, your dual battery boxes, pretty much everything of how the boat's going to lay out before we even started on it. So next we get the okay from the client. We, you know, build the bill and tell them, hey, it's, you know, estimated to be this much, and get the okay from them and, you know, start on the bill.
What's going on, everyone? Dalton Trainer here with Cartoons Incorporated of Greenville, Mississippi. Today we're working on the 3rd one of the fleet, campus police vehicle that we're doing strobe lights, visor, siren, everything in here. I just wanted to show some behind the scenes that a lot of other shops probably don't show, but we take pride in making custom amp racks for all our amplifiers. So why shouldn't we do this for the flasher module? So under here, you can see we made a custom ABS mount to mount the Typhoon controller. All the wiring is secured nice and neat. The USB for updates is accessible, And the best thing is this is not bolted directly to the floor, which is going to cause rust and other issues later on in the future. So no matter what it is, lighting, audio, video, custom fabrication, we're going to do it right. We're going to do it the best we can.
Bullshit. I'm in a high fidelity first class traveling section. I think I need a lift jet.
This is a 2017 Chevy Impala. I had come into the bay thinking that it was going to be just a simple diagnosis. The client had called over the phone prior to this saying that their radio had stopped working. But once the client got to the shop and went to drop it off, they stated that their friend had tried to hook up subwoofers in the vehicle. So I pulled the vehicle into the bay. First, checked the basics, checked all the fusing to make sure that it was working and there were no blown fuses for the radio or maybe the factory amplifier. All of those were good. So then I began to dig deeper. Since they said that their friend was trying to hook up subwoofers, I immediately went to the trunk area where the factory amplifier is, and that's where I found a hacked up harness. I repaired the harness by soldering and heat shrinking all the connections back together, plugging the harness back into the amplifier, and then retesting the vehicle, yet to find nothing else happening. I began digging deeper into the vehicle, pulling door sill plates and checking where the main radio control module is under the dash, finding more cut splices into the harnessing. So I soldered and repaired all of those. Now that they were soldered, the factory radio would power up, but there were no outputs. I tested the outputs with my oscilloscope, and there it was. They had backfed the amplifier trying to hook up a line output converter and burnt the outputs of the radio up. From here, the client had no other choice rather than to change the radio. So we then bypassed the factory amplifier and upgraded to a Sony ES10. My personal and professional evolutions this past year have been absolutely tremendous. On a personal level, I set a goal at the very beginning of this year to be part of what's called the 1,500 pound club in the gym. And what that is that's an overall grand total of your squat max, deadlift, and bench press max. So in retrospect, you would think 500 on each one of them would get you a grand total of 1,500, or less or more on the others. And I'm happy to say that about 3 weeks ago, I finally joined the 1,500 pound club with a 500 pound squat. One of the heaviest squats I've done. So 500 pound squat, I have a 600 pound deadlift max and 435 on the bench press for a grand total of 1,535 pounds. Absolutely awesome achievement for me. Literally breathtaking. But the next year's goal on the personal side is to be in the same 1,500 pound club, but at a lower body weight and body fat percentage, because right now I'm about 265 pounds. I want to be around the 225 pound range, which is about 40 pounds less. Overall, the issue that you run into with losing body weight is a lot of times your strength levels will go down on the high side, because a term we use in the gym is mass moves mass. So essentially, the bigger you are, the more you should actually be able to lift. And say, you're starting at a body weight of where I'm at now and removing 40 pounds, a lot of times those peak numbers will, kind of dwindle down a little bit as well. But we're going to see how it goes within the next year. I'll keep you updated, and hopefully we get there. As far as professional evolution goes, I've evolved a ton in my fabrication skills by going to trainings at Mobile Solutions for the custom center console training they did. DSP, I did a one-on-one DSP training with Mr. Dan June of Memphis Cardio, also the guy who wrote the software for their DSP. Who else better to learn from than him? And in my laser, I've become a lot more familiar with the software and a lot more efficient. So when it comes time to designing and cutting things on the CNC laser, I've become extremely efficient. For next year, the goal is to kind of hone in on these skills a little bit even more. That's the goal every year, to become a better you as an installer. But realistically, I'm really happy with where I'm at right now, and next year I can't wait to see where I am then. A few of the educational trainings that I've done this past year would include the Mobile Solutions Custom Center Console Fabrication, which was an absolute eye-opener for me. Center consoles were always something that I kind of struggled with, and now going into vehicles where we're going to design and build them, I feel absolutely competent that I could build a console for any vehicle that comes through our shop. The legendary Mr. Brian Schmidt, Justin Marks, and Wesley Cato put on this class, and they taught us everything from step one to finished product of how to make these consoles fit in the vehicle, look like they belong in the vehicle, and bolt down in a manner that's non-intrusive to the vehicle, but it makes it extremely secure. These guys right here, they're some of the top guys in our industry as far as fabricator goes. If not, they are the top fabricators in our industry. And going to courses like this and learning from those guys is always, it's an experience that I always love to do. I always make lifelong friends when I go to the courses and learn absolutely so much. So in this class, I used to struggle with the mounting of the center console to the vehicle, and they taught us a different way to mount it to the vehicle to make it extremely secure, but easily removable if needed to be serviced. They taught us edge-let acrylic in this one, which was absolute mind blower. I've never seen somebody edge light acrylic the way that they did it. Something that I'm going to implement into several other builds this coming year. And then just little tips and tricks, like Justin Marks has a tip, like whenever he's assembling, we had like a custom center knob that we built in this one that looked kind of like the BMW iDrive knob. But what he does is he makes a template outside of the acrylic pieces that he's assembling, and pretty much you put your acrylic piece in and then have, like, say, your wood template, and then put your secondary level and then your other wood template. And what it does is when you inject the acrylic cement, it makes sure everything is perfectly aligned. So anybody that's ever worked with putting multiple layers of acrylic together always knows you always have that way that makes it really easy to get off. So you inject the acrylic cement, and it's always really easy to have a piece slide just a hair. But I mean, you're talking a 1/16 of an inch, it will ruin your entire piece that you make. So using this little nugget that he gave me of making a template that actually centers everything and makes it where it can't get out of alignment is something that I'll implement. Actually, I've already implemented in a custom set of pillars that I built to make an insert. But things like that are what make our industry better as a whole, and that's why I love attending trainings like this with the best of the industry. Another training I did was with Mr. Dan June of Memphis Cardio. Who better to have a DSP training with than the guy that actually wrote the DSP software for the company. So he came in, we had a whole day set aside at the shop. We tuned our shop demo vehicle, and he went through every aspect of his tuning process with me, from start to finish, on how to set up a vehicle, how to time alignment, how to do the equalization, your target EQ curve that you want, and then we sat down in the vehicle and he showed me his way of fine tuning a system to make it sound absolutely perfect in that driver, passenger, or if you have a 2-seat tune, make it sound really good that way. I'm really appreciative of all the help he's given me over the past year, and Dan, if you're watching this, thank you so much. You're the man.
All my friends know the low rider. The low rider is a little higher.
I want to tell you thanks for showing me how to make little jigs to make everything straight. So what I've got today is a piece of quarter, 2 pieces of 1/8, and then that's my 1/4 inch wood that I put there to make everything right. And then I'm putting this in a pair of pillars. It's 2 pieces with my magnet insert, and then it's all kind of like that. But just want to say thanks, man. You're a lifesaver. Little things like this are what make you more efficient.
My personal and professional education achievements this past year will provide me with huge motivation over this next year. As far as in the professional line, my training that I did with Dan June was it was absolutely phenomenal. I really have a huge passion for DSP training, and I love that he came and did a one-on-one training with me. I'm absolutely forever in his debt. And he taught me so much just with that one day of having our one-on-one time. It's something that I really want to go more and more in depth with, and I actually have scheduled to do a training a little bit after Christmas time with Mr. Chris McNulty, another DSP training that possibly Ken Ward will be in on, because we just signed a agreement with Audison. So I'll be building another shop demo vehicle with a full Audison system in it, which is going to be amazing. I can't wait for you guys to see. But furthering myself, I feel like DSP is something that should be in every vehicle nowadays, and it doesn't matter if it's the smallest or the absolute best DSP that's on the market. Some sort of time alignment, EQ, correction is going to make any system sound better. So why not be able to implement that into every car that comes through our shop? That's an avenue for our shop to make more money, and for me to widen my skill sets every time I do it. So no matter what, if there's a training available, if it's from Mr. Nick Wingate, if it's Ken Ward, if it's McNulty, if it's Mr. Dan June, if he has another tuning technique he wants to do, Sage Weir, if I'm at an event where these guys are putting them on, Brian Mitchell, if they're putting on a DSP tuning, I want to attend that, because everybody has their own special way of, the way they like to tune DSP. All these guys out here, they can create absolute amazing sounding vehicles. So if I can learn from each one of them, I can take the little tips and tricks that I see every one of them do, implement them into my own process to become an absolutely, better DSP tuner. And maybe somebody that, somebody hears one of my systems and says, hey, I want to know how you did that. And then I can give back to them and show them my process that I've, implemented by learning from all these other guys. As far as trainings, like fabrication trainings, I am signed up to go to the Master Tech Expo, where I plan to learn upholstery. This last center console training, Mr. Wesley Cato sat me down with the sewing machine and showed me some different ways of sewing patterns and different things like that, and it really got me hooked on it. So I told Mom as soon as I got back, I said, look, I want to go to the Master Tech Expo and I want to learn upholstery, because I believe Wesley and I believe it's his cousin are going to be doing a presentation in there. Sewing something I would love to implement into my fabrication skill set. I just feel like it takes you to that next level above everybody else, where you can, custom stitch things and just make one-off parts that nobody else is doing. Even though we're, still making one-off parts out of the custom panels we're making, but it's that next level, right? Every day I try and push myself and, grow and become a better fabricator, technician, installer, tuner. It's just one of those things I'm extremely passionate about. I love what I do, and it's not a day of work if you love what you do, right? My main role here at Cartoons Incorporated is lead technician and head fabricator. As far as the technical installations go, I'm always the guy to come to. I handle all of the integration, DSP tuning, any complex audio system that comes to the store is usually work that I'm going to do. Fabrication is also work that I'm going to do, whether it be running the table saw, using the tabletop routers, the CNC laser, 3D printer, or welding projects that we have. I'm also the installation manager, so I oversee all the other installations that the techs do here, just to make sure that they're up to my quality standards. And we do this just to make sure that every install is done the same, and we want to make sure that our client is always delivered the highest quality installation that's possible. And this is what maintains our high-end reputation in the industry. One of my other roles is client sales. Client sales comes easy to me. Reason being, one is because I am the installer and technician, so I understand which equipment is going to work better in certain vehicles. I'm also up to date 100% on all of our equipment, since I am the one that exchanges all of the equipment that's in a board and keeps them updated. I know exactly what equipment we can go to on the demo boards, all the specifications, and as far as application wise for a client, I can go into more into detail with them about the installation side of it. And when you start explaining to them how you're going to tune their vehicle, or the reasoning behind why you want to use a 3-way set or a 2-way set in their vehicle for better sound quality, what that does is it shows your knowledge as the installer and allows you to take control of the sale. Now your client trusts you and knows that you're doing the best thing for their vehicle, which for me, I'm always going to try and do that for my clients anyways. But having that trust between me, the installer, and the client allows the sales process to go a lot simpler. This is one of the things that I really enjoy doing because it allows me to connect with the client, and the client tells me kind of what they want out of their system, so I have an overall insight of what their end result is, so I can say, hey, we need to use this, this, and this is going to give you the end result that you want in your vehicle. My value and impact that I have on fellow employees and the business in general, I would say comes from my personal passion and drive to constantly search out new installation techniques and technology to integrate to new vehicles or different types of vehicles. My fellow employees, I feel like that motivates them in a way that they see that every day I'm constantly challenging myself and becoming a better fabricator and installer day by day, so that motivates them to want to better themselves and become better at whichever position they're in. As far as the business, since I am finding new avenues and techniques to use in different vehicles and ways to integrate that's bringing more vehicles into the business, which makes me a valuable asset for bringing in new clientele. My role and activities that I participate in the mobile electronics industry to help other industry professionals become better would include things like speaking at Knowledge Fest Vegas this past year with Mr. Chris McNulty. We put on a class about custom speaker adapter solutions, the materials that we should be making them out of, like ABS, acrylic, PVC, even aluminum, and things that we shouldn't be making them out of, like MDF wood, and the reasons why certain applications are superior than others. What this does is kind of help set the bar at a certain standard. So maybe new fabricators or new technicians that are coming into it, or even old guys that have been using wood, see this and go, that's the way that it should be. So what we're doing is trying to bring the industry up as a whole. I will be speaking with my mother at Knowledge Fest Vegas this year for 2024, and in Knowledge Fest in Nashville. We'll be doing a class that encompasses on professionalism from the workspace into the showroom and how to close higher dollar tickets. So this is going to be a really good class on ways to make yourself look more professional and to make more money. So sign up for that class. It's going to be awesome. I also participate as an administrator for the Mobile Electronics Syndicate, so I help manage the syndicate page. I also participate in things like Ken Ward's Educar Integration and Acoustics page. What this does is, if I have a vehicle that comes in and we take acoustical or electrical measurements, we'll post those up on that page, so anybody that is facing that same vehicle or maybe quoting that vehicle can look at the results that we've gotten right there. It helps everybody out as a whole, and really for me, I try and play the role as somebody that has knowledge but is always willing to learn and is very approachable. So I always want to give back to my community. I want to give back to industry professionals, and in the end, the result is to make us all the #1 guy. We all want to be Installer of the Year, so if I can help the next guy get to that level, I'm going to go out of my way to do it. On a daily basis, I have people that call me on the phone, message me through Facebook Messenger, text message me, things like that, if they're coming over a hiccup, and I'm always going out of my way to give them a solution if I have one, or if I don't have a solution, I can put them in contact with somebody that will have a solution for what their needs are. So overall, for me, I do as much as I possibly can to give back to the industry, and I do this because I really love what I do and I love my industry. Why should I be considered the next Mobile Electronics Installer of the Year? For me, Installer of the Year, this title means a few things to me. When I think of Installer of the Year, I think of a seasoned, well-rounded installer, somebody that can do custom fabrication, somebody that can do integration, their wiring is absolutely clean and tidy, they can build complex audio and electrical systems, any of that stuff. They're extremely well-rounded. And when I look at that, it reminds me of myself. All of those things are things that I can do. I can do custom fabrication. My wiring is always extremely clean. Integration, any vehicle that comes in our shop doesn't stand a chance. If I can get my tools on it, we're going to figure it out, right? Electrical systems, I can build complex electrical and audio systems and do the tuning on those. Those are all things that I feel like are key benefactors of what an Installer of the Year should be, right? I don't build 100%, nothing but show vehicles, but can I build show vehicles? Absolutely. But I also do our normal everyday stuff. I do remote starters. I do, deck and floor, amp and subs, but custom fab is something that I'm very passionate in as well. As an Installer of the Year, I want to make myself more approachable to especially the younger group that's coming up, the younger installers. Every time that I go to an industry event, I go out of my way to try and make myself approachable to everybody that's there. If I'm presenting or if I'm just attending an event, I try and be friendly to everybody. Because as a younger installer, a lot of times it's intimidating to talk to seasoned techs or installers. I know myself when I was younger, there were several times that I wanted to ask questions to the guys that I thought were the top guys of the industry, but I was, too worried to talk to them because I thought maybe they would think my questions were silly or irrelevant. And as an installer of the year, I would definitely voice my opinion that no question is dumb or irrelevant in my opinion. Also, at my age, at only being 28, I have lots of years left in my career. So what that means is if I can take our industry and the younger guys in our industry and make them feel comfortable and in asking questions like that to become better, I have years and years that I can influence the next upcoming generation that's here. And for me, I feel like those values that I've spoken on are reasons why I should be the perfect candidate for the mobile electronics installer of the year for this year.